Our students really need to learn how to use text structures for both reading and writing. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video today is how to introduce text structures to your students and get them using them in your classroom to help them become better readers and better writers. Hi there, I'm Kathy Harsh. I'm the creator of Teach to Write, and I help teachers and writers with the proven writing strategies and techniques that help improve writing skills. So if you like my content, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when new videos come out. First things first, a lot of times students confuse text structure with text features. So one of the things you need to do is teach them the difference between text structure and text features. Now, both of them help with the organization of a text, especially an informational text. However, one is more visual and the other one you have to use through reading. So text features are things like headings, subheadings, images, captions, graphs, diagrams, things of that nature, bulleted lists, things like that. And those help students visually key in on certain details. But text structures are more inside the text. They have to dig into the text and become text detectives to find what organizational patterns the writer is using. And a lot of times, your organizational patterns that a writer uses are more than just one of them. For example, in a how to video like this one, I might use numerous different text structures. I just use definition and description. I just use compare and contrast. So there are so many different text structures that a writer may use within one informational piece. So one way to kind of differentiate for students in their minds about the difference between text features and text structures is this. Think about a house. The features of a house, we often look at things like the yard, the garden. Does it have a garage? What color is the front door? Does it have a double front door? Does it have windows in the door? How many windows are in the house? Are there front-facing windows and how big are they? Do you have French doors in the back? What color is the house? What kind of roof does the house have? These are all features of a house. And a lot like house features, text features are what readers notice right away. Headings, subheadings, captions, images, graphs, and so forth. But structure of a house is much different. The structure of the house is from the foundation up. The basic structure of a house we often don't see or really notice unless someone points them out to us, like wall mounts or columns or rafters of a roof. They're often covered up by things like drywall or paint. They are often embedded in the home, yet without these things, we wouldn't be able to construct rooms or floors or ceilings. Much like these embedded structures of a house, text structures take some time and training to notice. Text structures use transition or signal words, which are woven throughout a text. Onto these text structures, writers can include descriptions, facts, and definitions, opposing ideas, and so forth. Yet, because transition words are embedded in the text, students often don't notice them. So that's why we must teach how these transition words help to structure a text and give it meaning. And students will need ongoing practice to become proficient at identifying and using text structures, which are vital to their comprehension. Texts also have different organizational layouts. Writing must have a purpose and a flow. It has to be organized. And in order to do that, writers need to give their readers some sort of a framework to use. That's why it's important to learn and teach text structures so writers can build a text that readers can then understand. Human brains crave organizational patterns. We look for patterns everywhere. And so students need to be text detectives and look for the patterns, look for the clues that the author is giving us, or they might have to create their own clues for their own readers to follow so that they can present their evidence. This ability to find and use patterns, especially language patterns, is what makes the ability to communicate amongst humans possible. We wouldn't understand each other without organizational patterns. So it's imperative that we teach our students at least the 5 basic informational text structures. Now, there are more text structures than these, there's a lot more, depending on what the purpose is and what kind of writing you're doing. But these are basic informational structures, usually used in expository writing, although you might find them a little bit in argumentative and persuasive as well. So the first one is description. And before I go further, description is going to be used in every single text structure. So when students are looking to see what type of text structure they're looking at, we teach them description first, and then we tell them that they're going to find description in every other type of text structure as well. Because we need, as human beings, we need description to understand what's going on in the world. That's our sea of experience. As a very good teacher author, Barry Lane, says that we are all swimming in a sea of experience. It's our text structure that helps us look from the mountain of perception. He also talks about that. By the way, that is in After the End, his book that he wrote years ago, and I use it still to this day. So teach them description first. It doesn't really matter after that what order you go in, but usually what I do is compare and contrast, because, or sequence of events, either one of those two, because they're going to find those pretty much everywhere. So if you're talking about an event, then they're going to be a sequence of different things happening, different sequence of events, a timeline of some sort, and they need to know the signal words for those. In compare and contrast, that's a lot of times they have to compare one thing to another thing. And that's how they learn also, is by comparing one thing to another. So the next thing you might want to go into is cause and effect. So this is also great with timeline. So if you teach timeline and then cause effect, that goes together really well. So anything historical can be used with cause effect. Anything scientific can be used for cause and effect. And teaching them that one cause can have many effects, or one effect can have several causes. They can use those back and forth and to know the signal words for cause and effect. So the next structure that I want to talk about, so far I've talked about 4, is problem solution. So they define a problem, they say why it's a problem, they describe it, and then they talk about some solutions and maybe even purport the best solution. That would probably be very useful in an argumentative or persuasive type of piece. So when you introduce text structures, what you want to do is make sure that students have a list of the different text, of the 5 different text structures, and the signal words that go with them, as well as the definitions for each type of structure. And you might want to teach them some different graphic organizers they can use, like with compare contrast, you might use the Venn diagram, which is hard to write in. So sometimes what I use is a 3-column list where you have the 2 things that are different on the outside of the topics, and then the inside in between the 2 topics, you might have how they're the same. I use that all the time. Another thing that you can use is a mind map for description, a timeline for timelines. For cause and effect, you might use arrows of some sort. So once you introduce this list to them, then you can start giving them some text to try to figure out what the main text structure is. There might be more than one there. So that's also an opportunity you can ask students, hey, are there other text structures in here? And if so, where are the clues, the signal words, and where is the evidence for that? Then to help them to gather that evidence and to gather those signal words, give them a graphic organizer to collect their information into. Now that's when they're reading. When they're writing, you do the same thing. You have them use their list and you give them something like, okay, compare and contrast yourself with your best friend. It's better if you use something that they're very familiar with. That way they can definitely write about that. You give them the graphic organizer and they fill out about themselves and their friend and how they're similar, how they're different, and then how they're similar. So little exercises like that that can be bell ringers are very, very helpful in teaching text structure. So if you've liked this video on text structures, what I'd like you to do is click on the link in the description box down below, and you'll be taken to the Text Structures Detectives workshop, which if you sign up for that, you'll get everything that I've been talking about included in it. You'll also get the videos that teach you how I introduce text structures with fun activities with my students and 3 strategies to practice text structures in just a few minutes a day so your students can master text structures. You'll get all the resources I discussed in today's videos. These resources use a fun detectives theme. There are printable and digital resources as well as presentation slides and lesson plans. So make sure you click on the description box down below if you're interested in taking my workshop. So bye for now and happy writing.